episode of Progress, Potential, and Possibilities, discussions with fascinating people designing a better tomorrow for all of us. I'm your host, Ira Pastor.
Welcome everybody again to another episode of our show with a fascinating guest involved in innovation in an industry that we really haven't touched on much yet, and that is the distilled spirit segment, which interestingly happens to be almost a $400 billion a year industry around the world now, estimated to reach about $500 billion by the year 2025. And we're honored to be joined by Angela D'Orazio, who is Master Blender, Chief Nose Officer, and Artificial Intelligence Mentor at Mackmyra Svensk Whisky, where she has worked since 2004. So started in the industry as a brand ambassador for Glenmorangie in Scandinavia. Since 1996, she started as a spirit judge for a number of competitions, including the International Wine and Spirits Competition, the Stockholm Beer Whiskey Festival, Superior Test Award, and the International Spirits Challenge. She also founded around the first Scandinavian chapter of the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society from 2003 to 2006. She's involved in some fascinating areas of experimentation and innovation with a new brand called Mackmyra Intelligence, which we'll get into in a little while. And when she's not doing all of that, she defines herself as an addict to neuromuscular interaction dance, and we'll get into that topic as well. Angela, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come talk to us for a little while.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. That was really gallantly done, you know, very thorough, and you know, you got all the details.
Great. I try to do my homework, but we typically start off by giving our guests the floor just for a little bit. Obviously, we'd love to hear a little bit more about who you are. Sort of, you know, if we could take us back a bit, sort of, you know, where you grew up, how you got interested. I read that, you know, originally back in, I guess, the 80s, you were not very fond of whiskeys, but then you had a moment of enlightenment. How does one ultimately go from that to becoming a master blender and chief nose officer? If you could take us a little bit on that journey, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing from not liking whiskey to becoming a master blender, that doesn't have to be a very long road, because once you like something and you got a passion for it, you work towards something that you like. And I think that has been the thing with whiskey all along for me. I wasn't particularly aware of whiskey when I was younger. You know, I tasted some what we called rocket fuels when we were younger, you know, the stuff that the guy drank, you know, and it was like tough stuff that didn't taste good. And then I left it there. And then I some years later, I moved to Italy to stay with my father. My father moved back to Italy when my parents got divorced. So I was a teenager in Italy, and I started to go out, and that was something really cool. In the bars there, they had something new called single malt whiskey, and you know, me and my friend, we just found it beautiful, and you know, not unlike anything else that we had tried before. And from there on it went. And then, you know, I fast forwarding, I came back to Sweden from Italy some 10 years later, and I did some sommelier training, you know, because since I was working in restaurants when I was younger. And after the sommelier training, I helped a friend who had a malt whiskey importer business in Sweden. And I got involved in his whiskeys at the Stockholm Beer Whiskey Festival. And then I got involved in the Stockholm Beer Whiskey Festival. And then I got involved with the importer of Glenmorangie, who asked me if I wanted to work with them. And I thought, okay, yeah, I could promote. That was, you know, I could do that. And then I did a good promotion, so they sent me to Scotland to get some education. And when I was in Scotland, I fell in love with the whole thing. I fell in love with the trade, the craftsmanship, the taste, all the different tastes, all the, you know, it's like, it's a whole new world for a person who doesn't know anything about it. And then it's so beautiful and so much pride and so much tradition and so much loveliness between the people who work and does it, you know. And so, and from there on it went. And I would never have had imagined that I would become a master blender. I was just going on the road that I liked.
Wonderful, wonderful. You know, in reading a little bit about the company, Mackmyra, you know, it's been around, I believe, for about 15 years. Obviously, sort of, I think about it is sort of not a startup, but when you think of some of these old Scotch producers that, you know, go back hundreds of years and so forth. So you've had the opportunity to do a lot of very innovative things. We'll get into some of them. Could you talk just in general, though, if you could, the company, from what I've been reading, is very known for, and based on a lot of your work, based on very interesting finishes and maturation techniques. You also have a very interesting sort of eco-friendliness and sustainability model. Take us just, if you would, just a little bit about Mackmyra as a company and sort of a little bit of what it's like in the innovation whiskey business in 2020. That'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. So Mackmyra is a company that was founded in 98. So, but you know, we started making whiskey in the end of 99. So last year we celebrated 20 years. And so Mackmyra was founded by 8 friends, 4 couples that they were all engineers. They had done the Royal Technical University in Stockholm, and you know, they happened, you know, the story is really beautiful, and there's nothing strange with that, but it's like a really nice ski vacation in March 98. They all went to a little cottage in Sweden with 2 meters of snow, and everybody happened to bring a bottle of whiskey. And so they had a lot of snow to dig away because the cottage was just snow everywhere. So with all the snow, they built like an ice bar, and they had the whiskey tasting there. And there the idea was born. Why don't we make a Swedish whiskey? And from there on, they decided to go to Scotland to do like a research tour, spy tour, someone would call it, maybe. And they realized that Sweden was, you know, excellent for making whiskey as well. You know, we had similar conditions in Scotland and so on. And there was nothing, you know, there was nothing magic about Scotland that we couldn't do in Sweden. And so they got back and they found this old place, which is an old, it's an old factory where they used to make cast iron in Sweden. A couple of hours north of Stockholm, 1.5 hours north of Stockholm in Valbo. That place was called Mackmyra Bruk. And so they got the permission from the owners, who just used it as like a warehouse. It's an old, really old, beautiful, protected building. And they started making whiskey there in a small scale. They constructed a small pot still and started making whiskey in 30-liter batches, and started to sell those batches as 30-liter casks. So Mackmyra was actually one of the first with this private cask business. That is, it's a crowdfunding business, you could say nowadays, but it was just called, like, you know, private cask. And yeah, and from there on, you know, we got a lot of good money from that. A lot of people signed up when we sent out the first email to ask, you know, are there any Swedes that would like to buy their own cask? And it was like more than 900 answers in 24 hours. So you know, so we got some money for that, and we could build some more, and fast forward a bit, you know, a couple of years later, in 2002, we got funding from the Swedish Farmer Association, who wanted to invest in us. So therefore we could build the full-scale equipment that we still have there. And we could start making whiskey on a full scale. instead of just yeah. And so in 2002, in the autumn 2002, we started making whiskey at the old distillery, and excuse me, I just have to close my phone here. Someone's calling.
No problem.
Yeah, so in 2004, we bottled our first bottlings for the people who owned their casks. In 2003, we started making whiskey, putting whiskey into Swedish oak casks. We started making the peaty stuff we have with, we created the juniper recipe that we have. So we have peat with a touch of juniper inside, which gives it a Swedish DNA. And yeah, and I joined the company in 2004. Well, I joined them in 2002 as an external person, but in 2004 I joined staff. And yeah, and so Mackmyra has been gone on its own road. So we have had the Scottish people, the Scottish producers as inspiration, but it was clear from the start that we wanted to do our own Swedish thing. And what that wasn't really clear in the beginning. We knew that when we got the Swedish oak, we knew that was something really special. We could really sense the Swedish oak being a tougher version of the American oak that was, mainly being used in the business. And but from there on, I think we found our way, with the ingredients being Swedish. We had the Swedish barley that we got from one of the farms that we co-worked with. So Swedish barley, Swedish malt was one of the ingredients, and we developed the recipe with Swedish yeast, which was yeast, actually the same yeast as you can buy today in the shops when you do sweet doughs. So that was the result of different batches that was done, and we could clearly see that gave us the most individual type of taste and an aromatic profile. So we thought, it's Swedish, nobody else does this, and it's we could get it from the Swedish yeast company, in bigger things than the ones that you buy in the shop. So yeah, and then we had the water, which was local, and we started making whiskey in small casks, as I said before. And then we of course we used the traditional American oak casks, but we also made like a quarter version of them. So we remade the 200 liters that we bought from the US into 100 liters, and we had 128 liters. So we call these casks the quarter casks. And those were the ones initially, we had the knowledge of small casks, and we knew that the whiskey was, becoming really nice, and all our cask owners were testifying on that. And we could also see that the whiskey matured quicker. So therefore, these quarter casks, they were really good because, as a new whiskey producer, you have to wait some years before you can sell your product.
Sure.
Yeah. So they helped us in quickening up the process. And yeah, so the quarter casks has become like a signal of Mackmyra. And we kept them because even though now we don't need the quickening up, we really like the finishing period in these quarter casks. Yeah, so that's a part of it. And then in my case, I was really interested in doing something else, not the Scottish thing. I had a master blender mentor from Scotland, from Isla, called Jim McHugh, and he was encouraging me to do a Swedish version of it. And what that would be was, all the different kind of Swedish wines and berry wines and stuff like that was tried out. And, for the most part, they have been really going well together with the whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a test initially, more tests, and then people really seemed to like it, and we liked the result. I liked the result, and from there on we went. And so the explorative part of Mackmyra has it started off as an adventure for these guys, and then everything has evolved in the same direction. And yeah, you were talking about the new distillery. The new distillery was built in 2010, 11.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a distillery that we decided to build when the old place wasn't allowing us to produce as much as we wanted. And we didn't own the land, we didn't own the village around us. We were not allowed to make more than 6 weeks of smoky malt per year, as the owners didn't like the smoke in the air.
Mm.
And yeah, things like that. So we decided to look for some new land, and we got in touch with a neighboring borough, and we got to buy some old military land just beside of the town of Gävle, which is just like 8 kilometers from the old place. And that's where we built this skyscraper, this Gravity Distillery, which
Mm-hmm.
is built on gravity, as the name says, and it's really built to be showing for the visitor the pedagogical thing with production. So you take the elevator or you walk to the top, and then you just follow the process down. Yeah, of course. And then it's green. So we
Right.
Yeah, we really try to save energy. We try to save, the environment, and everything is being really well thought of as it was built. So we are using the draft from the whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
that has been, it's what do you say? They come and pick it up, and we then get pellets back from it that we can use for heating up the stills. What else? So yeah, we built our own little smoking facility, a kiln, at the Whiskey Village, as we call the site.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and and there we are.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love elegant stories like that. To start off with, as you said, some friends hanging out, drinking whiskey, and now you have a viable business with that's environmentally friendly. It's so elegant. I really enjoyed that. Thank you. So moving along, those, the same. Obviously, a young company, obviously have the ability to be very innovative, and that leads me in. Obviously, last year you made quite a bit of headlines with regard to this artificial intelligence Scotch, Mackmyra Intelligence. You have collaborated with Microsoft and other sort of what's like technology providers, and for what's reading, you fed all sorts of data in terms of customer preferences and different recipes of old into the system, and now the computer spits out millions of unique recipes. Take us a little bit through this story, if you would. We've talked about AI a little bit on the show in the past in terms of things like drug development, where we're looking, say, for a specific compound that does something. What do you look for in terms of a recipe from artificial intelligence? Is it flavors, smells, specific demographic differences in the palate? What types of things can you apply artificial intelligence to in this process?
So my knowledge of AI is being built on what I did here. So
Sure.
I'm not like the AI expert at all.
Neither am I.
Good. All right. So to your question, what you can do with AI as regards to whiskey,
Yep.
I think you can do a lot more than what we did.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely go and select the aromatics that you would like, but we didn't do that. We did that indirectly.
Okay.
You could use AI to make, like have a cask inventory and really see everything that you have, and then let the AI help you in choosing and laying more casks in for the future. And you could have it as a complete system, like a complete assistant.
Mm-hmm.
You could choose AI for choosing what kind of yeast you would like to have or use, depending on whatever preferences you have. If you want to make more whiskey, you could see if you could use a better yeast. If you want to make another type of taste, you could then choose it on that, based on that. But all those things that I'm mentioning now are things that if you do that, then you would have to wait some years before you know the result.
Okay.
And we didn't do that. We didn't want to wait some years. So we wanted to have an AI experience here and now.
Understood.
So what we did was that we talked with the AI guys. This is a lovely company in Finland, Fourkind is their name, and they explained to us how they design the AI programs, and we together with them realized that so we have a lot of good whiskey already in our cellars, and how can AI be the master blender in this case and select the greatest recipe ever made, sort of. Yeah. So we then said, okay, so let's provide all the recipes that I had done until that date, which was about 80. So me and a colleague of mine, we decided to, we split the job and we put down all the recipes in percentages and sent them. So they had all the casks, all the ages of the casks. They had all the different whiskey types. They had all the different wine finishes. They had all the different ages of the whiskeys. They had all the different distillation types, like elegant, smoky, extra smoky. And that's what you mentioned, the customer preferences, the medals, and all those reviews that we had in our database. So all parameters we could think of that was possible to take out from us was given to them. So there were many thousand parameters. And then they constructed the program, and the program then spitted out many recipes. So I got like the first batch of recipes. There were about 100 recipes. And I looked at them and I thought, this is gibberish. This doesn't make sense at all. It was a too small percentage each cask, for example. So the possibility of making this bottling would be, unless you made like huge amount, then you wouldn't, and even so it wouldn't be possible to make it. You know, so there were a lot of weird parameters in there, and a lot of parameters like we don't have that cask type anymore, or that whiskey is too young, or so we changed a lot of parameters. So I did back and forth with the AI machine officer, and you know, so he sent me 100 recipes, and then we changed some parameters, and then he sent me more 100 recipes, and then we changed some more parameters, and back and forth, and you know, one of the parameters that we decided on to change, which is easy to get, is would we do a smoky whiskey or not? Mm-hmm. And since we had so many medals in the smoky range, the computer suggested everything would be smoky, you know, or have a big portion of smoke inside, because, you know, that was how the brain understood. So we decided, well, you know, we will just have 2% of smoke. That was my input. So not more than 2% of smoke. So then we got completely different recipes, and then back and forth, and some 1,000 recipes later, I saw 5 recipes that I really liked, that I saw that we could do some more of if we wanted to, you know, not only do 1,000 bottles, but even 20,000 bottles. If this was a recipe that people would like, you know, we wanted to have the possibility of doing more of it. So I test blended those a few times, and then I decided which recipe to use. And yeah, so we blended it, and we went to a tech fair in Amsterdam a year and a half ago, and we had this explanation of the project, and then people could taste the whiskey as well, and that people liked it a lot. So we thought, like, yeah, it's okay. And then we released it, and we released it in the summer, and we also released our web shop at the same time, so we could sell it to more countries than just Sweden or the countries that we, you know, work in. So that was a bit of the story. You know, I can tell more about it, but
you know, it fits very nicely with sort of this theme of sort of AI being a research partner. Not that, you know, we're at a point where the AI is going to be tasting stuff and there are no need for master blenders, but the fact that, you know, it's a very, what I'll say is an elegant sort of synergistic application between someone like you that is an expert in this and having this new tool to help you. I think that's a really cool aspect of it. Just as a side note, and I mean, I don't know if you use AI for this or if this is the master blender intelligence, but you're looking at somebody here that I can drink tequila, rum, vodka. I can even drink gin. And my parents drank a lot of scotch. I can't go near it. I don't know what it is. I cannot. Is there a sort of a segment for people like me? I know they tried to make some easy scotches in the past for like beginners, but any insight as to why? Because, you know, there's all those situations of people that taste one thing and taste X, and people have it taste Y. Any way to overcome scotch aversion for someone like me?
Well, I think it's you probably have
Is it genetics?
First of all, no, I was going to say that you have a couple of bad experiences in your childhood where you stole some of that stuff from your parents and you drank it. and then you felt bad about it, or like you physically felt bad, and therefore your physical persona associate whiskey with a bad thing. Could that be a theory?
It could be, because I did have stories growing up. My mother said my father would put a little in my mouth when I, what are you drinking, Daddy? So, anyway, let's go on. Let's focus on you instead.
Yeah. But if you want to learn, you should go to tastings,
Yeah.
because if you go to a tasting where they have like a lineup with, with everything from the elegant to the smoky part,
Okay.
then you learn.
Got it.
Learn which is your preference, and while you are learning, you are reprogramming your brain with, from blah to yeah, maybe. And then you go from maybe to, yeah, this is the one, this is actually, I don't like that, but I like this. And then from liking to like a little bit more, the step is shorter.
Gotcha.
But that's like only if you want to. You don't have to. But do you like rum?
Oh, I love rum.
You love rum? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the step is not that far.
No, definitely not. But I'm not I read you said it was like meeting Jesus when you first got the whiskey moment, but I'm not there yet. But anyway, moving on. Women in whiskey. This is a topic that you've been quoted in a variety of publications. You've talked about sort of how this whiskey industry has a very sort of masculine slant to it in sort of the advertising and so forth. But you and read some more about other women that are sort of breaking the mold. Talk about sort of the women in whiskey and moving forward, new attitudes towards whiskey with females, new positioning of products. Sort of take us out where this is going in terms of how you see the industry developing more in terms of some of the specialized things you're doing.
Yeah, well, I think as regards to women in whiskey, it's not rocket science with making something good and getting everybody to like what you're doing. Then if you are with your marketing, you're trying to maintain a status quo of who used to drink it and who will look at my ads. If you want to maintain the status quo of what it has been, then you are not appealing to half of the population.
Sure.
And if you do that, fine, you can do that. If you want to appeal to the other half of the population, which traditionally doesn't drink whiskey because they, it wasn't meant for them, or whatever you want to say. So you will have to listen to the language. You will have to listen to the language that you're using in the ads, in the reviews, in whatever you're doing. So, and you have to have ladies or representatives if you want. You have to have representatives for that population if you want them to listen to you.
Yep.
So that's easy in a sense. And if you want to go into problems and stuff like that, we could do that, but it's not super interesting. We've had a little Me Too moment in the whiskey business just now. I don't know. Were you referring to that?
No, I was just reading some of the articles that, with your profile as sort of the leading, it seems like there's a small sort of sorority of women that are really leading sort of the next sort of phase in the industry's development. So that's right. Those are the articles I saw.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we just had a Me Too moment in the business where a guy who writes a really nice, well, at least he used to write a really nice whiskey book, tasting loads of whiskeys from all the producers. And he has been writing, one of the ladies in the business, she analyzed his latest issue of this book that came out 2 months ago, the 2021 issue, where he in certain pages, in many pages, writes very sadly sexistically about whiskey. And how you can do that is, for me, it's like, yeah, of course you can do that, but it's like,
right. It's 2020.
Yeah. It's okay. So you're like that as a person, and then you write a book like that as a person. And anyway, I knew this guy, and I knew that he's like that. And this lady who wrote about him, she said, okay, I've analyzed the discussion in the business about this. I wrote response to her response, or her article.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some Swedish people writing about it, some bloggers, and Mackmyra, we wrote about it. We issued a statement, that we were, we like everybody who likes our whiskeys, but we don't like anybody who's excluding people, which is,
Sure.
yeah. And in that business, it's good that things like this comes out, because, as I said, this is a traditional business. And in my case, I've been in this business for 28 years now. And I've had my fair share of men saying, condescending things to me because I'm a woman. Like, how can you know about whiskey and stuff like that. So, and much worse things. So they don't do that anymore, because today I kind of stop them at the door. But when I was younger, when I was beginning, I was, getting that. And of course, it's sad, and I think it's good that, Me Too movements comes to dark corners like this too.
Neuromuscular interaction. You have, when you're not blending and interacting with artificial intelligence and building the business, you spend time doing this fascinating art form. You claim you're an addict to it. It's a very interesting combination of self-defense and dance and relaxation techniques. We love, talking about the different wellness practices and so forth on the show. Take us into this, because I was unaware of it before I read it, and it happened to be an article that about you. But take us a little bit about what it is, and how long you practice it, and how it helps you on a daily basis to both defend yourself but also relax.
Well, it's NIA, as it's called, is a you could say a lifestyle fitness practice, where you move and basically you dance to music. But what you do is that you move to music, and you learn to listen to your body while you're doing the fitness practice. So you kind of go into the awareness of yourself. So you listen to why you don't like to do a movement, or you listen to why you want to do a movement, and small signals that we tend to forget in our daily lives, sitting down in front of our desks, and I don't know, it's like life. I think we kind of forget the vitality that we have as kids. And this practice is a fitness practice which helps you to, have fun and train to music. And while you do it, you kind of, you forget that you're training, but you're training. You're actually, get sweaty, and you learn to go towards where you want to go to. So instead of, no pain, no gain kind of training, you get your gym annual gym card, and then you go 3 times, and then you don't go anymore, and you wonder why. In this case, it's the opposite. If you get what NIA is, and you want to go there, your body will tell you, I need to go. So you kind of you go where your body wants to go. So it's sort of the other way around, that you feel the need of doing it because you feel a void or whatever that your body is missing, in in moving, in dancing, in expressing.
Mm-hmm.
So NIA is a combination of a physical activity, but it's also we use our emotions to play with, and we use we're complex beings, so we have a spirit, we have a body, we have emotions, and so we use the whole of that in the practice, which gives people like a full experience. It's not just you take your body to the gym, your mind is somewhere else, you watch a TV show while you walk on the treadmill, and then kind of, oh God, I did this hour again. Yeah, and so that's so NIA is a lot of things, but it's basically it's a lifestyle fitness practice that is really to the people who likes it, it's really wonderful. Mm-hmm. And it's made for everybody. It's made for all sorts of bodies, so you don't have to be super fit or super thin or super young to do it. You can be of any age and any size, because we teach people how to to tweak it to your level.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very elegant. Very elegant. Yeah. Kind of like blending whiskey. Takes a lot of different things.
Yeah, exactly. And so I've been dancing NIA since 2010, 11. I had a friend in London who became a NIA teacher, and I was always staying on her couch when I was overdoing some whiskey competitions. So I came with her to her class, and I just fell in love with it. And then I actually came back to London that summer because there wasn't any in Stockholm.
Mm.
And then in the autumn, she told me, we have this thing called the white belt you can take. It's a week of NIA. And if you want, you can become a teacher after that. And I said, okay, I love a week of NIA. I will never, ever in my life become a teacher, because I can't see myself as that, and and I don't know it that well, and blah 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 blah. And then after that week, I realized I need to do this a lot more. So I decided to become a teacher there and then. And then I practiced for a year and something, before I had the courage to really become a teacher. I did some classes here and there in the world when I was traveling, but yeah. And then, the first years you suck as a teacher. That's included in the package. But I had some courageous people who probably wanted to dance more than, they. So I continued, and then, today I have 4 to 5 classes a week.
Okay.
Mostly in this pandemic period on Zoom.
Sure.
Yeah, but I still have one outdoor class up in Gävle where we make the whiskey. So when I go up, the weeks I go up, I have an outdoor class, even in the winter, because the ladies who dances with me, they really want to dance. And then I have a class in Stockholm with some of the ladies who are not afraid of the pandemic, so they still want to dance. So do that.
Very nice. Very nice. Speaking of teachers, I typically ask a wrap-up question on the show about important mentors, teachers, influencers in your life. Obviously, you met a lot of people in in industry, in sort of the relationships that you've had as you built this business. Any specific folks that you want to mention, shout out to at this point that have been very instrumental for Angela D'Orazio to be where you are today? And it could be with Nia, it could be with Mackmyra, or any other part of your career.
Yeah,
Please.
well, there are so many, but
Sure.
yeah, if you talk about the whiskey business, I would say my mentor, Jim McEwen,
Okay.
at Bruichladdich. He's really one of those who has encouraged me and helped me and made the journey incredibly fun. So that's one person. I would say a French whiskey lady called Martine Nouet. She's called the Whiskey Queen or the Spirits Queen. She lives in Scotland now. She actually lives just a very few kilometers away from Jim on Isla. She has been on a big part of my journey, and we've done competitions together and we've cooked together, and you know, I've stayed on her couch and she stayed on my couch, and things like that. And so she's also one of the people that in the whiskey business. And then I would say Mackmyra in general is really a company that I have, you know, I've loved being in, because I think if you have a place that allows you to thrive, a place that allows you to, you know, to make your crazy dreams, you can try them out, and you're allowed to do mistakes, and you're allowed to go new places. I think Mackmyra has been that place for me, really. Yeah, what else? Well, of course, I would say my mom. She's one of the most important people who has given me permission to be whoever I want to be, and whoever I need to be, and go places and say things and be uncomfortable, and you know, all of me to be. So I think my mom, she's really crucial there. Yeah, there are so many more. But in the Nia business, I have my Nia pals. I have Elisa, I have Kinga, and my first Nia trainer, Dorit, in London. I have my other trainers, Britta and Letizia. And yeah, so there are a lot of people, but those are some of the most important ones.
Wonderful, wonderful. Appreciate those messages. Angela, it's been a very wonderful time listening to you, listening to the story, listening to everything you're doing in your journey, and really wishing you the best with moving forward and the next steps in this particular process for you, for everybody that's going to be watching on this particular YouTube episode or listening on the podcast. You've been listening to Angela D'Orazio, a master blender, chief nose officer, artificial intelligence mentor at Mackmyra Svensk Whisky, also neuromuscular and action dance addict, doing really fascinating things in innovation and technology in the distilled spirits segment. Keep an eye on her and her company. Angela, thank you for taking the time to talk to us for a little while today, and thank you, as we say, for making better tomorrow, a better whiskey tomorrow, hopefully for me at some point. It was really a great time talking to you.
Well, Ira, thank you very much for inviting me and for giving me the space of talking to you. I hope I wasn't too boring.
No,
I had to tell you. And
it was wonderful. It was really wonderful.
Well, thanks for inviting me.